The morning sun cast a golden haze over Virginia Beach as retired Colonel Michael Reynolds adjusted his dress blues in front of the mirror. His fingers methodically traced the Purple Heart and Bronze Star pinned to his chest. 25 years of military service, condensed into metal and ribbon, hanging above the scar on his left thigh, a permanent reminder of the roadside bomb in Iraq 2004. He'd pulled 3 soldiers from a burning Humvee that day, the ringing in his ears lasting 6 months afterward. Some medals weren't decorations, but proof that certain things mattered more than personal safety. His phone chimed with a calendar reminder, Sarah's wedding, 4:00 p.m. His only daughter marrying into the Harrington family Old Money Country Club memberships and generations of what they called refined society. Michael straightened his tie with the precision that had become second nature after decades in uniform. The face that looked back at him in the mirror had new lines weathered by desert suns and sleepless nights, but his posture remained ramrod straight, shoulder squared. Military bearing wasn't something you lost after retirement. 3 months ago, Sarah had called him in tears. The Harringtons had pulled their financial support for the wedding, and everything was about to be canceled. Michael hadn't hesitated. $95,000 transferred immediately, no questions asked. The relief in his daughter's voice had been worth every penny. He recalled her as a little girl running to the door when he came home on leave wearing his old Army t-shirts to bed, telling her 3rd grade class that her daddy was a hero. Her mother had been gone 8 years now, breast cancer taking her far too young, and Michael had raised Sarah alone through her teenage years and into adulthood. She'd been his anchor when he'd founded Reynolds Defense Consulting. After retirement, the company that now generated $30 million annually and employed dozens of fellow veterans. The rehearsal dinner the previous night should have been his first warning. Elizabeth Harrington had approached him at the bar, her silver hair perfectly styled designer dress probably costing more than most people's monthly salary. Michael, isn't it? I understand you're in some sort of security business. The bourbon in his glass caught the light as he turned it slowly. Defense Consulting, Reynolds Defense Consulting. Her smile never reached her eyes. How interesting. And you were in the military. 25 years Army. I see. She glanced around the room with practiced nonchalance. Well, I do hope tomorrow's reception won't have too many war stories. The Harrington family values a certain level of sophistication. Michael had taken a measured sip of his bourbon. Ma'am, sophistication and service aren't mutually exclusive. Her laugh sounded like wind chimes in a hurricane, pretty but hollow. Of course not. I'm sure you understand social dynamics. Perhaps tone down the military references tomorrow for Sarah's sake. He should have recognized the warning signs, should have seen the tactical situation developing. But when you love someone, you convince yourself their behavior has explanations that don't break your heart. This morning, Sarah had pulled him aside before the ceremony, her expression tense. Dad, about your speech tonight, what about it? Mrs. Harrington thinks maybe you should skip it. Let Richard handle the toasts. Richard, her future father-in-law, trust fund beneficiary who'd never worked a day in his life. Sarah, I'm your father. I know, but she wouldn't meet his eyes. His family is paying for the honeymoon and the down payment on our house. It's complicated. The wedding ceremony itself was beautiful. Virginia Beach Country Club, Ocean. Front views 150 guests in formal attire. Michael wore his dress blues with full decorations, a visual history of his service and sacrifice. Some guests stared not with respect, but with curiosity, as if he were an interesting museum exhibit. But Sarah looked radiant walking down the aisle, and when she smiled at him from the altar, he momentarily forgot everything else. He gave her away with pride swelling in his chest, even as he noticed Thomas Harrington's parents watching with barely disguised disdain. The reception started smoothly enough. Cocktail hour on the terrace, expensive hors d'oeuvres, open bar with top-shelf liquor. Michael mingled, made small talk, answered the same questions about his military service and current business ventures. Most guests were polite, some genuinely interested. Then Elizabeth Harrington found him again, champagne flute in hand. Michael, I've been meaning to ask about your business. Does it involve weapons? We consult on defense technologies, help companies navigate federal contracts. Ah, she sipped her champagne Dom Perignon, $300 a bottle. And you've seen combat, Iraq, 2 tours. Her expression shifted, subtle but unmistakable. How challenging that must have been. All that violence. The way she said violence made it sound like a disease he might spread. Ma'am, violence is what I helped end, not what I brought home. Of course, it's just that she glanced towards Sarah now, posing for pictures with her new husband. Some experiences leave marks, don't they? Michael felt his jaw tighten but maintained his composure. This wasn't just about him. This was Sarah's day, and he wouldn't be the one to ruin it. Dinner service began at 7:30. Prime rib lobster tail sides that cost more per plate than most people spend on groceries in a week. Michael sat at the parents' table directly facing the Harringtons. Richard Harrington held court with stories about yachts, clubs, and golf tournaments. His idea of struggle was choosing between the Martha's Vineyard house and the Aspen condo for Christmas. Michael, Richard said, between bites of prime rib, Elizabeth mentioned you're in the security business. Private investigation, defense consulting. We help companies navigate military contracts. Interesting. He cut his prime rib with surgical precision. Must be quite different from your army days. Different missions, same principles. Elizabeth leaned forward. What sort of principles? The table grew quiet. Michael recognized the trap being laid, but answered anyway. Integrity, accountability, mission first. How admirable. Her tone suggested otherwise. Though I imagine civilian life requires more nuanced approaches. Nuanced how? Reading social situations and understanding when directness might be inappropriate. Richard nodded in agreement. Elizabeth has a point. Business today is about relationships, perception, management. Michael set down his fork. And what perception are you managing right now? I'm sorry, what perception are you managing by suggesting military service lacks sophistication? Elizabeth smiled tightly. I'm simply saying that some experiences translate better to polite society than others. Polite society, and Michael's voice remained calm, but his eyes narrowed slightly. Like wedding receptions funded by people who've seen impolite things so you don't have to. The silence stretched uncomfortably. 8 pairs of eyes watching the verbal sparring match. Richard cleared his throat. Michael, I think what Elizabeth means, I can speak for myself, Richard. Elizabeth's voice had an edge now. I mean that certain backgrounds come with certain associations. Violence, aggression, trauma. You think I'm traumatized. I think you've been exposed to things that might make others uncomfortable. Others meaning who? Our friends, our social circle, people of a certain standing. There it was, the truth under all that southern politeness. Standing, yes, like the standing that comes from inheriting money versus earning it. Elizabeth's face flushed. Excuse me. You heard me. Richard stood. Now see here. Sit down, Richard. Michael didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. 25 years of command presence didn't disappear because you were wearing a tuxedo instead of ACUs. Richard sat. Michael turned back to Elizabeth. You want to talk about standing, about sophistication? I think this conversation has gone far enough. I haven't started. You want to know what lacks sophistication, accepting $95,000 from someone whose background embarrasses you. We didn't ask for your money. No, your son married my daughter, same thing. Your daughter chose our family, Michael. She chose our values. Your values including taking money from people you consider beneath you. Nobody said anything about beneath. You didn't have to. It's written across your face every time you look at these. Michael tapped the decorations on his chest. Purple Heart Bronze Star Combat Infantry Badge. 25 years of service you'd rather pretend doesn't exist. Those are your choices. These are my accomplishments. And the reason you're eating $30 a plate prime rib instead of hot dogs from a food truck. Richard found his voice again. You're out of line. Am I? Your family backed out of paying for this wedding. Who stepped up? That's between you and Sarah. Is it? Because it seems like you're enjoying the benefits while questioning the source. Elizabeth's eyes flashed. We question nothing about your money, just the man who earned it. We question whether certain attitudes belong in civilized company. Certain attitudes like what? Like the assumption that military service entitles you to respect. The table went dead silent. Even neighboring tables stopped talking. Michael smiled the kind of smile that made enemy combatants reconsider their life choices. Ma'am, I never assumed anything. I earned respect. The difference is probably too sophisticated for you to understand. Elizabeth stood abruptly. I don't have to listen to this. No, you don't, but you already cashed my check. What's that supposed to mean? It means we'll finish this conversation when you're ready to be honest about what's really bothering you, which is... Michael stood slowly, shoulders square, voice calm as morning reveille. Your precious social standing depends on money from people you consider beneath you, and deep down you know it. Elizabeth stared at him for 10 long seconds before turning and walking toward the ladies' room. Richard started to follow, but Michael held up one hand. She'll be back. People like her always come back. Richard hesitated, then sat down. The rest of the table pretended to eat their dinner, but Michael could feel the tension spreading through the room like ripples in water. Someone was going to escalate this. Someone was going to push it past the point of no return. He just hoped it wouldn't be his daughter. Elizabeth returned 15 minutes later, composed lipstick, fresh ready for round two. But something had shifted in the room. Michael noticed it in the way the waitstaff moved more purposeful, more attentive, like they were watching for signals. The head waiter, an older gentleman with military bearing, approached their table. Colonel Reynolds, everything satisfactory this evening. Outstanding, Sergeant. Michael recognized the posture immediately. The man's face lit up with recognition. You recognize the posture? 22 years Marines Force Recon. Outstanding, sir. Please let me know if you need anything. Elizabeth watched this exchange with puzzled irritation. How did he know your rank? People recognize what they respect. Richard shifted uncomfortably. The service here is exceptional. We've been members for 15 years. Good staff, Michael agreed. Professional operation. What the Harringtons didn't know was that Michael had been here before, not as a guest, but as a business partner. 3 years ago, the Virginia Beach Country Club faced a crisis. Membership declining, operating costs rising. They needed a corporate sponsor with deep pockets and local connections. Reynolds Defense Consulting stepped up $500,000 annually, enough to upgrade facilities, retain quality staff, and maintain the kind of exclusivity that attracted families like the Harringtons. Michael's signature was on their annual operating budget, but he hadn't mentioned that to Sarah or anyone else. In his experience, power worked best when people underestimated it. The DJ started the music. First dance for Sarah and Thomas. Father-daughter dance would be next. Michael's moment to show these people that blood meant more than breeding. Except Sarah approached their table before the song ended, her expression a mixture of discomfort and determination. Dad, about the father-daughter dance. Michael's stomach dropped. What about it? Richard wants to do a family dance instead, all the parents together. Sarah, it's more inclusive, more modern. Elizabeth smiled, having regained her composure. We thought it would be lovely, all of us sharing the moment. All of us meaning her and Richard, with Michael as an afterthought. Your choice, Michael said simply, watching his daughter's reaction. Sarah looked relieved. Thanks for understanding. She walked away, the train of her gown trailing behind her like a white flag of surrender. His daughter, who used to stand on his feet while they danced in the living room. Now she was choosing social convenience over 25 years of being her father. Michael excused himself. He needed air, needed perspective. The terrace overlooked the ocean waves rolling in under moonlight, peaceful, timeless. The kind of view that reminded you some things mattered more than temporary embarrassment. Colonel Reynolds. Michael turned to see a young man in a black suit approach, professional bearing evident in his stance. Staff Sergeant Thompson, Marine Security Forces. I'm part of tonight's security detail. Security detail? Yes, sir. 5-man team, all prior service. The club's insurance requires professional security for events over 100 guests. Michael nodded in acknowledgement. Sir just wanted you to know it's an honor working an event where you're present. Word gets around in the veteran community. What word is that, Sergeant? That you take care of people who served with you. That Reynolds Defense Consulting hires veterans, gives them real opportunities. Good people deserve good work. Yes, sir. Thompson hesitated briefly. Also wanted to mention we're all aware of your corporate partnership with the club. Management briefed us on VIP protocols. VIP protocols. For major sponsors and board members. Different security considerations. Interesting. How many people know about the sponsorship? Just security and senior management, sir. Club policy keeps financial arrangements confidential. Good policy. Yes, sir. Anyway, beautiful event. Your daughter looks happy. Happy Michael watched through the windows as Sarah orbited around the Harringtons like she was auditioning for acceptance. Happy enough to erase her father from the traditional moments that defined weddings. Happy enough to choose her new family's comfort over her old family's dignity. Thank you, Sergeant. Enjoy your evening. The family dance was a disaster. Not the choreography or music, those were fine. The disaster was watching Sarah gravitate toward the Harringtons like they were the center of her universe. Elizabeth and Richard commanded the center of the floor. Sarah and Thomas followed their lead. Michael danced with Thomas's sister, a pleasant woman who'd clearly been briefed to keep him occupied. When the song ended, applause filled the room. Cameras flashed. The photographer captured the moment, but Michael wasn't in the center shots. Sarah had positioned herself so the primary photo showed her with the Harringtons. Her father was background decoration. The message couldn't have been clearer. Richard took the microphone for toasts. 5 minutes about family traditions and bright futures, followed by polite applause. Elizabeth followed with another 5 minutes about Sarah joining their family and carrying forward their values. The applause for her was louder than for Sarah herself. Then Sarah spoke. I want to thank everyone for being here tonight. This has been the most perfect day of my life. She thanked the Harringtons for welcoming her, thanked the guests for their support, thanked the staff for their service. She didn't mention her father. Not once. The man who had paid for half her wedding had become invisible. Michael stood at the back of the room, listening to his daughter erase him from the most important day of her life. When she finished, guests began approaching him, offering congratulations and asking about his toast. Actually, he said to each one, I'm not giving a toast. Really, how come? Oh, word spread quickly. By the time dinner service resumed, half the room knew something was wrong. That's when Elizabeth made her move. She found Michael at the bar. Third bourbon of the evening, not drunk, just tired of pretending everything was fine. Michael, I think we need to clear the air. Do we? Yes, I'm concerned about your energy tonight. My energy? You seem agitated, aggressive. The bartender, another veteran Michael had noticed from his bearing, continued polishing glasses, but he was listening. Aggressive how? Your comments at dinner, your attitude during the family dance. Some of our guests are becoming uncomfortable. Which guests? Several people have mentioned it. Names. Who specifically feels uncomfortable? Her composure cracked slightly. It's not about specific individuals. It's about the overall atmosphere. The atmosphere created by a father attending his daughter's wedding. The atmosphere created by someone who seems angry about arrangements that were made for everyone's benefit. Everyone's benefit, including mine, including the family's. Sarah's new family. There it was, the knife slipped between his ribs so smoothly he almost missed it. Yes, what about her old family? Elizabeth glanced around. They were drawing attention. Good. Michael, you're obviously feeling excluded. I'm feeling erased. That's not, it's exactly what's happening and you're orchestrating it. Her voice dropped. I'm trying to help Sarah transition into a new phase of her life. By cutting out the people who got her there. By helping her understand what her new position requires, which is maintaining appropriate relationships with appropriate people. The bartender stopped polishing. 2 conversations at nearby tables went quiet. Appropriate people. Yes, like you. Like people who share similar values and social expectations. And I don't. You have different experiences, different perspectives on how to handle social situations. Social situations like wedding receptions. Social situations like any gathering where behavior matters. Michael set down his glass. Elizabeth, let me ask you something. What? Do you think I'm stupid? I think you're missing the subtleties. Do you think I'm too unsophisticated to understand what you're really saying? She straightened. I think you're taking this personally when it's simply about Sarah's future. Sarah's future without her father. Sarah's future with people who can help her achieve her goals. What goals does those social advancement, business connections, the kind of network that opens doors? Doors that stay closed to people like me. Doors that stay closed to people who don't understand the rules. The room was quieter now. conversations pausing as people sensed confrontation. What rules, Elizabeth? The rules of polite society, such as knowing when your presence might create tension for others. Others meaning who? Others meaning people who matter to Sarah's success. And I don't matter. You matter to Sarah personally, but professionally, socially. Your background creates complications. Complications. Yes, like the complication of having a father who earned his money instead of inheriting it. Like the complication of having a father whose career involved violence. The word hung in the air like smoke from a gunshot. Violence. You mean military service. I mean whatever you did overseas that earned you those medals. She gestured at his ribbons dismissively like they were costume jewelry. Those medals represent saving lives, Elizabeth. I'm sure they do, but they also represent killing. They represent trauma. And people with trauma don't always make good decisions in social situations. The entire bar area had gone silent. 20 people listening to Elizabeth Harrington explain why military veterans didn't belong in polite company. Michael looked around the room, saw the faces watching them, some confused, some embarrassed, some angry, including Sarah. His daughter stood near the dance floor staring at them with panic in her eyes. This wasn't how her perfect evening was supposed to go. Elizabeth followed his gaze, saw Sarah's expression. Now look what you've done. You've upset her. I've upset her. Yes, with your inability to control yourself in public. My inability to control myself. Yes. Michael kept his voice steady, almost gentle. Elizabeth, let me explain something to you. What? If I couldn't control myself, this conversation would have ended very differently. Her eyes widened. Are you threatening me? I'm explaining the difference between choosing restraint and lacking options. I don't understand. You will. Sarah approached them, face flushed, voice shaking. Dad, what's going on? Michael looked at his daughter, the little girl who used to beg for bedtime stories about brave soldiers, who wore his dog tags to school for show and tell, who promised she'd always be proud of her daddy, the hero. Ask your mother-in-law. Patricia, Elizabeth's composure was cracking. Your father is having difficulty accepting the new family dynamics. What new family dynamics? Sarah asked. The reality that you're a Harrington now with different social expectations? Sarah's face went blank as she processed this, then looked at Michael. He saw her make a choice, saw the calculation in her eyes the moment she decided where her loyalty would lie. Dad, maybe you should go. The room went completely silent. Sarah, you're embarrassing me. Embarrassing us. This is my wedding and you're making it about you. I'm making it about respect. You're making it about your ego, your need to be the center of attention, your inability to let me have one perfect day. She was choosing them in front of everyone. His daughter was choosing the Harringtons over the man who'd raised her, fed her, paid for the dress she was wearing. Sarah, do you know what this evening cost? It cost $95,000. And now you're using that to control me. I'm not controlling anything. Yes, you are. You're trying to force people to respect you because you paid for things. Elizabeth smiled behind Sarah's back. Victory. But here's the thing, Dad. Your money was invited tonight. You weren't. So maybe you should leave before you ruin anything else. The words hit like shrapnel, sharp, precise, designed to destroy. Michael stood there for 10 seconds looking at his daughter, looking at Elizabeth's satisfied expression, looking at 150 guests watching his public humiliation. Then he smiled, the kind of smile that made enemy combatants surrender. You know what, Sarah? You're absolutely right. Your money was invited. I wasn't. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out his phone, speed dialed a number he knew by heart. Patricia Michael Reynolds. Yes, I'm here at the club. We need to talk. Sarah looked confused. Dad, who are you calling? The general manager. And why, Sean? Because there's something you should know all about this venue. Patricia Moore appeared within 30 seconds. Elegant black dress, professional demeanor, the kind of executive presence that commanded respect in corporate circles. Colonel Reynolds, good evening. Evening, Patricia. Beautiful event. Thank you, though I understand there's been some tension. Nothing we can't resolve, but I think it's time for full disclosure. Sarah looked between them. Full disclosure about what? Patricia Moore opened her leather portfolio, drew out a document folder. Miss Reynolds, I'm sorry, Mrs. Harrington. Are you familiar with your father's business relationship with Virginia Beach Country Club? Business relationship? Perhaps Colonel Reynolds should explain. Michael took the folder. 5 years of contracts, sponsorship agreements, financial partnerships that kept this place running. Sarah, you asked who was invited tonight. Let me show you. He opened the first document, held it so the nearby guests could see. Reynolds Defense Consulting Annual Corporate Sponsorship, $500,000. Sarah's face went white. What? Per year for 3 years running? Elizabeth stepped forward. What is that supposed to mean? It means this club exists because of that money. Patricia Moore nodded. Colonel Reynolds' sponsorship covers 30% of our annual operating budget. Facility maintenance, staff salaries, event capabilities. 30%, Michael repeated. Richard appeared at Elizabeth's shoulder, exaggerating. Patricia, could you walk them through the numbers? Certainly. She opened her tablet. Annual operating costs, $1.66 million. Corporate sponsorships total $5 to $70,000. Reynolds Defense Consulting represents the largest single contribution. The crowd around them was growing, word spreading through the reception like wildfire. But it's more than money, Patricia Moore continued. Colonel Reynolds' business connections have brought in 14 new corporate members. His veteran hiring initiative provides our security and maintenance staff. Michael gestured toward the security team, 5 men in black suits stationed around the room. Staff Sergeant Thompson, Staff Sergeant Martinez, Corporal Rodriguez, Sergeant First Class Williams, Petty Officer Johnson. Each man straightened as Michael called his name. All prior service, all employed through Reynolds Defense Consulting placements, all working tonight because this club provides opportunities for veterans. Sarah stared at the security team. You hired them? I hired their company, veteran-owned security firm, one of 12 businesses we've helped establish in the last 3 years. 12 businesses, Patricia Moore answered. Colonel Reynolds' consulting work includes veteran business development. His clients require security services, transportation, catering, technical support. Rather than outsource to traditional companies, he created a network of veteran-owned enterprises. How many people? Sarah asked, her voice small. Currently 237 veterans employed through Reynolds Defense Initiatives. Average salary, $68,000 annually. The math was sinking in. Not just the money, the scope. Richard cleared his throat. Very admirable. But what does this have to do with tonight? Michael smiled. Everything. I don't understand, Richard stammered, sweat beading on his forehead as he glanced from his wife to Michael. Michael took the microphone from the DJ booth. The room went silent. Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for the interruption, but there's something you should know about this evening. 150 faces turned toward him. The weight of their attention pressed against his chest, but he stood firm, the way he had in combat briefings when delivering news that would change everything. My name is Colonel Michael Reynolds, United States Army retired. I'm Sarah's father, and I'm the corporate sponsor who makes this venue possible. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. 3 years ago, this club faced financial difficulties. Reynolds Defense Consulting stepped in with a partnership agreement, $500,000 annually, plus veteran employment initiatives, plus corporate event bookings that generate additional revenue. The murmurs grew louder. Sarah stared at her father, mouth partially open, processing the revelation. Tonight has been beautiful. Sarah looks radiant. Thomas seems like a good man. I've been honored to contribute to their celebration. Michael paused, letting the room settle. But I've learned something this evening. I've learned that some people believe military service disqualifies veterans from polite society, that our sacrifices embarrass sophisticated people, that our money is welcome, but our presence is not. You could hear breathing in the silence that followed. So I'm going to honor that preference. Sarah stepped forward. Dad, what are you doing? I'm leaving as requested. Michael's voice remained steady, controlled. But since my money was invited and I wasn't, I'm taking my money with me. He handed the termination documents to Patricia Moore. Effective immediately, Reynolds Defense Consulting withdraws all financial support from Virginia Beach Country Club. Sponsorship agreements terminated, service contracts canceled, veteran employment partnerships dissolved. Patricia Moore's face went ashen. Colonel Reynolds, please reconsider. Michael turned to the security team. Staff Sergeant Thompson. Yes, sir. Thompson stood at attention. Redeploy your team. We're executing immediate withdrawal. Understood, sir. The 5 security guards move with military precision. No drama, no confrontation, just professional redeployment. Elizabeth found her voice. You can't do this. Michael turned to her slowly. Ma'am, I'm not doing anything. I'm simply honoring your request that I leave. But the club will have to find new sponsorship, new security, new veteran programs, new corporate partnerships. Richard stepped forward, panic replacing his earlier confidence. This is ridiculous. Over a misunderstanding, over disrespect for military service, for the sacrifices made by better people than you'll ever meet. Sarah grabbed Michael's arm, her fingernails digging into his sleeve. Dad, you're overreacting. Am I? Michael looked at his daughter, studying the face he'd watched grow from infancy to womanhood. Your mother-in-law just spent 20 minutes explaining why military veterans don't belong in civilized company in front of a room full of people who depend on veteran-created businesses for their jobs. And you sided with her. Sarah's voice dropped to a harsh whisper. I was trying to keep peace. You were choosing social advancement over family loyalty. That's not peace, Sarah. That's surrender. The room buzzed with conversations as guests realized they were witnessing something historic, the dismantling of a social structure built on money and pretense. Look around this room. Michael gestured to the staff, the security, the infrastructure that made the evening possible. Every bit of it exists because veterans like me created opportunities for veterans like them. These men served their country, came home to civilian discrimination, found meaningful work through veteran-owned businesses, built lives and families and communities. The photographer was documenting everything flash after flash, capturing the moment. But according to your new family, their service embarrasses polite people. Their presence makes sophisticated guests uncomfortable. Elizabeth tried to interrupt. That's not what Ma'am, you said exactly what you meant, and now you get exactly what you asked for. Michael turned to Patricia Moore. Contracts terminate at midnight. Staff has until then to secure the premises and arrange alternative coverage. Security withdrawal effective immediately. Patricia Moore nodded grimly. Understood, Colonel, though I hope you'll reconsider. Ma'am, some decisions can't be reconsidered. Michael looked back at Sarah standing in her $10,000 dress, finally understanding what she'd chosen. You wanted your father gone. Your father is gone, but so is everything he built here. Dad, please. Sarah's voice cracked with desperation. You made your choice in front of 150 witnesses. Now live with the consequences. Michael turned to address the room one final time. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for attending Sarah's wedding. I hope you've enjoyed this evening because it represents the last event of its kind this venue will be able to host. The crowd erupted in whispers and shocked conversations. Staff members exchanged panicked glances knowing their jobs hung in the balance. Colonel Reynolds? Patricia Moore followed him as he moved toward the exit. What about the remaining events, the anniversary party next weekend? The corporate dinner on Thursday? Canceled. The veteran-staffed catering company won't be available. Neither will security services. But we have contracts. Michael slowed his pace. You had contracts with companies that don't work with organizations that disrespect military service. A woman with professional camera equipment stepped forward. Colonel Reynolds, Rebecca Wilson, Hampton Roads Military Times. Would you comment on tonight's events? Military Times. Michael's eyebrows raised slightly. The veteran community would hear about this within hours. Ms. Wilson, I'd simply say that respect is earned, not purchased, and some prices are too high to pay, even for family. Michael's voice carried through the now silent room. Especially for family. Family should be the one place where respect is unconditional. Sarah pushed through the crowd. Dad, wait, we can fix this. Fix what? The fact that you're ashamed of the man who raised you, the fact that your new family considers military service embarrassing. They don't, Sarah insisted, but her eyes betrayed her uncertainty. They spent the evening explaining why veterans make polite people uncomfortable. You agreed with them. I was trying to keep everyone happy. You can't keep everyone happy by throwing away your integrity. What about forgiveness? What about family loyalty? Michael looked at his daughter, the little girl who used to salute him when he came home on leave, who promised she'd always be proud of her soldier daddy. Family loyalty works both ways. Tonight you chose theirs over mine. I chose peace. You chose status over the man who taught you that honor matters more than appearances. The room had gone quiet again. 150 people watching a family destroy itself in real time. But here's what you didn't understand. Michael continued, his voice dropping lower. Status built on disrespecting others doesn't last. It crumbles the moment someone stops enabling it. Michael reached into his pocket and handed Sarah an envelope. Wedding gift. Check for $50,000 for your house down payment. She opened it, stared at the amount. Dad, I can't. Yes, you can, because unlike the Harringtons, I don't withdraw financial support to punish people. Then what? Because a gift doesn't obligate you to respect the giver, but it should prevent you from disrespecting them. Michael turned toward the exit. The security team formed a professional escort. Staff Sergeant Thompson. Sir, make sure the withdrawal is documented. Full report to the veteran business community. Some clients need to know which venues support veteran enterprises. Understood, sir. As they reached the door, Elizabeth called out, Michael, you're being childish. He stopped, turned back. Ma'am, I'm being decisive. There's a difference. Over-wounded pride, over-earned respect. Something you'll understand when you're scrambling to replace $500,000 in annual revenue. The last thing Michael heard as the doors closed was Sarah calling his name. But some withdrawals are permanent. The parking lot felt like a different world. Quiet, cool ocean breeze, stars visible despite the city lights. The kind of peace that comes after making a decision you can live with. Staff Sergeant Thompson approached as Michael reached his car. Sir, team is redeployed, perimeter secure. Status of venue security. Club manager is scrambling. They're calling Hampton Security Services for emergency coverage. Hampton's veteran-owned. Yes, sir. Marcus Rodriguez, former Army MP. He'll probably decline once word spreads. Timeline for publication. Wilson mentioned running it Sunday. Country club confrontation. When military respect meets social status. Something like that. Sunday. Michael nodded slowly. 2 days from now. By Monday morning, every veteran business owner on the East Coast would know about tonight. Corporal Rodriguez joined them standing at parade rest. Sir, club manager wants to speak with you. Michael looked back toward the venue. Through the windows, he could see chaos building, guests clustered in confused conversations, staff huddling with management, the Harringtons surrounded by concerned friends. Tell her I'm unavailable for further discussion. She's asking about reversal options, contract reinstatement. Negative. Withdrawal is permanent. Understood, sir. Michael's phone buzzed. Text message from Sarah, Dad, please come back. We need to talk. He showed the message to Thompson. What is? Assessment, Staff Sergeant. Thompson grimaced slightly. Sir, respectfully, that ship has sailed. She made her choice in front of witnesses. Another text, Elizabeth apologized. She didn't mean it the way it sounded. Then another, the club manager says they need your contracts. People will lose jobs. Michael handed the phone to Rodriguez. Any response recommendations? Sir, in my experience, apologies that come after consequences aren't sincere. They're damage control. What about the job losses? Sir, those jobs exist because you created them. If the venue doesn't respect veterans, veteran-created jobs shouldn't be supporting it. Sound logic, military logic, mission first, personal feelings second. But Sarah was his daughter. Michael took back the phone, typed a response. Sarah, some lessons cost more than others. This one cost you a father in the club, $500,000 annually. Choose your next words carefully. The response came immediately. That's not fair. I was trying to keep everyone happy. Fair would have been you defending the man who raised you instead of appeasing people who think veterans are embarrassing. They don't think that. They said it out loud in front of witnesses. You agreed with them. I was trying to prevent a scene. Preventing a scene by sacrificing principles isn't maturity. It's cowardice. 3 minutes of silence. Then, what do you want from me? The question hung on his screen like a challenge. What did he want from his daughter? An apology. Too late. Recognition of what she'd done. She'd figure that out when the bills came due. Respect for military service. That was between her and her conscience. I want you to understand that actions have consequences. You chose social acceptance over family loyalty. That choice comes with a price. What price? The price of learning that respect based on money isn't respect, it's transaction. I don't understand. You will when the Harringtons start treating you differently because your father can't fund their lifestyle anymore. That's not why Sarah, they accepted $95,000 from a man they consider socially inferior. What does that tell you about their values? No response. And you defended those values over the man who taught you about honor and integrity. Still nothing. When you're ready to have a real conversation about respect and family, call me. Michael put the phone away. Rebecca Wilson approached from the venue entrance, professional camera equipment in hand, recording device visible. Colonel Reynolds, could I ask a few follow-up questions? Michael considered her request. The military community deserved to hear this story from someone who understood its significance. Ms. Wilson, what message do you hope tonight sends to the veteran community? That respect isn't negotiable. That military service deserves recognition, not apology. That veteran businesses should support organizations that value veteran contributions. And to your daughter, Michael paused, the weight of the evening settling into his bones. That some prices are too high to pay for acceptance, even family acceptance. His voice lowered almost to himself, especially family acceptance. Family should be the one place where your worth isn't questioned. Will you reconcile? That depends on whether she understands what she sacrificed tonight, which was the relationship with the one person who loved her unconditionally. Wilson nodded, making notes. Thank you, Colonel. Thompson approached one final time. Sir, team ready for departure. Outstanding work tonight. Thank you, sir. Thompson hesitated. And sir, speaking for the team, what you did in there took courage, standing up for all of us. Staff Sergeant, we've all faced worse than social disapproval. Yes, sir, but not from family. He was right. Enemy fire was honest. Family betrayal cut deeper. Thompson, sir, make sure Rodriguez gets that emergency security contract. Hampton needs the business. Will do, sir. Anything else? Michael looked back at the venue one last time. Through the windows, he could see Sarah standing alone near the dance floor. Her perfect wedding had become a lesson in consequences. No, Staff Sergeant. Mission complete. Sunday morning, 0600 hours. Michael's phone started ringing before coffee finished brewing. Rebecca Wilson's article had hit Military Times website at midnight. 24 hours later, the veteran community was responding. First call came from Marcus Rodriguez, Hampton Security Services. Colonel Reynolds, sir, I just read the Times article. Want you to know, Hampton stands with you. Appreciate that, Marcus. Sir, Virginia Beach Country Club called yesterday. Emergency security contract. I declined. Good call. Word spreading through the Veteran Business Network. Tidewater Veterans Association called emergency meeting for Monday night. They want your account of what happened. What's the purpose? Vote on recommending veteran-owned businesses avoid contracts with the organizations that disrespect military service. The phone kept ringing. 23 calls by noon. Veteran business owners, former colleagues, military families expressing support. But not Sarah. Monday brought consequences. Patricia Moore called at 0800. Colonel Reynolds, we need to discuss contract restoration. Nothing to discuss. Termination is final. Sir, we're facing operational crisis. Security coverage failed over the weekend. Emergency contractor costs are exceeding monthly budget. Not my problem. The anniversary party Saturday was canceled. Corporate dinner Thursday is in jeopardy. We're looking at $40,000 in lost revenue this week alone. Patricia, that's what happens when you bite the hand that feeds you. Sir, this wasn't our decision. This was guest commentary that escalated. This was your venue, your guests, your failure to maintain respectful environment for all attendees. Could we schedule a meeting? Discuss terms for renewed partnership. Terms, compensation adjustment, public apology, whatever you think appropriate. Michael considered the offer not because he wanted their money back, but because he wanted to see if they understood what they'd lost. Patricia, what would a public apology look like? Whatever you recommend, Pornoran. Full page in Virginia Pilot newspaper. Statement at next membership meeting. What would the statement say? That Virginia Beach Country Club values military service and regrets any misunderstanding. Stop there, misunderstanding. Poor choice of words, regrets the disrespectful treatment. Of whom? Of you, of veterans, of military families. By whom? Silence. Patricia, who would be apologizing? The club management. What about the Harrington family? Longer silence. That's a separate matter between families, isn't it? Because they're still members, aren't they? Still using club facilities, still enjoying benefits funded by the partnerships they helped destroy. Sir, we can't control member behavior. You can choose which behavior you enable. Michael hung up. The phone rang again, immediately different number. Colonel Reynolds, Richard Harrington. Mr. Harrington. Sir, I think we got off on the wrong foot Saturday night. Did we? Yes, Elizabeth spoke inappropriately. We understand you were offended. Offended isn't the right word. What would be the right word? Disrespected, insulted, dismissed. Right, and we'd like to make amends. How? Well, the club situation affects all of us. Perhaps we could discuss restoring your sponsorship? Why would you want that? Because your partnership benefits everyone, the club, the community veteran. Employment. But not you personally. Michael leaned back in his chair. I'm sorry, your family doesn't benefit from my veteran employment initiatives. You don't need the club's financial stability. You have other venues, other options. That's true, but so why do you care if my contracts get restored? A pause. Because Sarah is devastated about the club situation, about losing her father. There it was, the real reason for the call. Mr. Harrington, Sarah didn't lose her father. She chose to disrespect him. She was trying to navigate a difficult social situation. She was trying to impress your family by throwing mine under the bus. That's not... Let me ask you something. What did Elizabeth mean when she said military service involves trauma that makes veterans unsuitable for polite company? She misspoke. She was nervous. She spoke clearly for 20 minutes about veteran inferiority and social unfitness. She married into your family. She speaks for your social circle. And Sarah sided with her. Sarah was confused. Sarah was embarrassed by the father who raised her, who paid for her wedding, who created the business relationships that made her perfect evening possible. Can we move past this? Move past what? The disrespect, the betrayal, the public humiliation. Move past the misunderstanding and rebuild family relationships. Richard, there was no misunderstanding. Your family made it clear that military veterans embarrass sophisticated people. Sarah agreed. Now you want to pretend it didn't happen because there are consequences. What would it take to fix this? It can't be fixed. Everything can be fixed with the right approach. Some things can't be unsaid. Some choices can't be undone. But family should be the one place where respect is unconditional. Sarah made it conditional on social acceptance. Michael hung up. Wednesday evening, 1930 hours. Tidewater Veterans Association meeting, VFW Post 392. 87 veteran business owners in attendance. Rebecca Wilson was there too, follow-up story in progress. Commander Sarah Mitchell called the meeting to order. We're here to discuss Saturday's incident at Virginia Beach Country Club. Colonel Reynolds, would you brief the membership? Michael kept it factual. Timeline of events, specific comments about veteran unsuitability. Sarah's public choice contract termination. Questions came quickly. Are other venues expressing similar attitudes? Unknown. This is the first direct confrontation I've experienced. What's the impact on veteran employment? Immediate loss, 43 jobs, security catering maintenance contracts, replacement opportunities. Hampton Roads Community Center wants veteran security contract. Norfolk Business Association interested in veteran employment partnership. Club response. Damage control, apology offers, contract restoration attempts. Your assessment. Apologies motivated by financial pressure, not genuine remorse. Commander Mitchell called for discussion. Veteran after veteran stood up. Stories of social dismissal, employment discrimination, family embarrassment about military service. The pattern was clear. Motion Tidewater Veterans Association recommends member businesses decline contracts with Virginia Beach Country Club until club leadership demonstrates genuine respect for military service. Vote 82 in favor, 3 opposed, 2 abstentions. Motion Association publishes list of veteran-friendly businesses and venues for member referrals. Vote unanimous. Motion Association requests Hampton Roads media coverage of veteran employment discrimination. Votes 79 in favor, 6 opposed, 2 abstentions. The veteran business community had spoken. Virginia Beach Country Club would face consequences until they faced reality. Thursday morning brought one more call. Sarah, Dad, we need to talk. Do we? Yes, in person. Why, wow? Because I understand now. Understand what? What you did, what you lost, what it's going to cost to fix it. Michael looked out his office window. Reynolds Defense Consulting, 30 employees, 15 military contracts, 23 veteran business partnerships. All of it built on the principle that respect was earned and honor was non-negotiable. Some things can't be fixed, Sarah, but they can be learned from. Can they? A hint of vulnerability in her voice. The first honest emotion he had heard from her since Saturday night. I hope so, because I need to learn how to be your daughter again. When, today, if you'll let me, some bridges once burned couldn't be rebuilt, but some could be replaced. Come to my office, 2 o'clock. Thank you, Dad. Maybe. Michael hung up the phone. Maybe not. But some lessons were worth the risk. Sarah arrived at 1400 hours. No designer dress, no wedding makeup, just his daughter looking like she hadn't slept in 4 days. Dad. Sarah. She sat across from his desk. Same chair where veteran business owners pitched their companies, where former soldiers asked for employment opportunities, where respect was earned, not inherited. I read the Military Times article, and I didn't recognize myself in it. No, the person who sided against her own father, who chose social status over family loyalty, that's not who I thought I was, but it's who you were Saturday night. Yes, simple acknowledgement, no excuses, no justifications. Why, child? Because I wanted them to like me, the Harringtons, their friends, their social circle. More than you wanted to respect me. I thought I could have both. I thought if we just kept everyone happy. You can't keep everyone happy by sacrificing your principles. I know that now. Sarah looked down at her hands, twisting her new wedding ring. Dad, I lost you. Thomas's family is treating me differently because your money isn't backing their lifestyle anymore. Half my new social connections have disappeared because the club can't host events. She looked up, eyes red-rimmed but clear. And I realized something. The people who stopped respecting me when you withdrew support never respected me at all. They respected what I could bring them. Michael leaned back in his chair. What else? That you built something real. Veteran employment business partnerships, community respect, things that matter. And I threw it away for people who value money over character. Sarah, this isn't about money. This never was. I know it's about honor, about standing up for what's right, about not being ashamed of the people who sacrificed for you. She was learning, but learning and changing were different things. What do you want from me, Sarah? A chance to earn back your respect. How? However long it takes, whatever it requires. Michael stood, walked to the window. 30 floors below Norfolk Harbor stretched toward the Atlantic. Ships moving with purpose and precision. The military had taught him to evaluate threat levels to identify sincere contrition versus tactical retreat. Respect isn't something you earn once and keep forever. It's something you demonstrate every day. I understand. Do you? Because Saturday night you had a choice between family loyalty and social acceptance. You chose social acceptance, and I was wrong. You were, but more importantly, you showed me who you are when the pressure is on. Then let me show you who I can become. Michael turned around, studied his daughter. The little girl who used to be proud of her soldier daddy had grown into a woman who publicly rejected everything he stood for. But beneath the designer clothes and social climbing, was there still something worth salvaging? We can rebuild our relationship, but it's going to be different. How different? No more choosing other people's comfort over family respect. No more being ashamed of military service. No more pretending that social status matters more than character. I agree. And if you ever again side with people who disrespect veterans, we're done permanently. Sarah held his gaze. I understand, Dad. Do you? Because some boundaries once crossed end relationships forever. I understand, sir. The first time she'd called him sir since she was 12 years old. The term wasn't just formality, it was recognition of authority earned through sacrifice and service. Some bridges could be rebuilt, but they'd be stronger the second time around. 2 weeks after their office confrontation, Sarah began her redemption journey with little fanfare. At 7:00 a.m. on a Tuesday morning, she arrived at Reynolds Defense Consulting in business slacks, in a simple blouse, a stark contrast to the designer wardrobe of her brief marriage. No diamond earrings, no luxury watch, just her father's old military wristwatch she'd found in a drawer after moving to her modest downtown apartment. Assignment. She asked the receptionist, a retired Army logistics officer, who regarded her with professional neutrality, despite undoubtedly recognizing her from the Military Times article. Veteran Employment Initiative, 3rd floor. Staff Sergeant Thompson's expecting you. Thompson met her at the elevator, clipboard in hand. His face revealed nothing as he assessed her appearance. Interview processing backlog. 42 files need organization, background verification, and preliminary skills matching. Start with these 10. He handed her a stack of folders. Questions? No, Sergeant. Workspace is there. He indicated a small desk in an open office area. Coffee machines in the break room. Lunch at 1200 hours. No special treatment, no private office, no acknowledgement of her status as the boss's daughter. Exactly as it should be. Michael observed from his office, watching Sarah navigate this new world. He'd given Thompson clear instructions: treat her like any new volunteer, assign appropriate tasks, evaluate performance objectively. Not as punishment, but as opportunity, the chance to earn respect through actual contribution rather than family connection. For 3 weeks, Sarah worked silently into the background, arriving early, staying late, absorbing the operational structure of her father's veteran support network. She learned the specialized terminology, memorized the qualification requirements for different positions, studied the partner companies and their hiring criteria. No complaints, no shortcuts, no expectations of privilege. Veteran business owners and job applicants who came through the offices recognized her from the article. Some nodded politely, others watched with undisguised skepticism. A few made pointed comments within earshot. Isn't that the wedding girl? Or, guess daddy's money wasn't enough after all. Sarah absorbed it all with squared shoulders, focusing on the tasks at hand rather than defending herself. In late March, Michael received Thompson's first formal assessment. Subject demonstrates consistent work ethic, attention to detail, and increasing program knowledge. Recommend advancement to direct veteran interaction under supervision. The promotion came without ceremony. One morning, Thompson simply placed a Reynolds Defense Consulting name badge on her desk. You'll handle intake interviews today, 10 veterans, various backgrounds. Conference room 30800. Sarah looked up, momentarily uncertain. These are actual applicants, not practice. Real people, real needs, real consequences if you mess up. Thompson's expression remained professional, but there was something new in his eyes, the smallest hint of opportunity. Standard interview protocol is in the system. Review it before your first appointment. That evening, after the office had emptied, Sarah approached her father's door for the first time since beginning her volunteer work. The security team, we veterans, all aware of the family's situation, watched with carefully neutral expressions. Michael glanced up from his desk. Come in. The Harringtons called in their loan for the house down payment, Sarah said without preamble, standing at parade rest, unconsciously mimicking the military posture she'd observed around the office for weeks. Michael studied her face, no makeup, hair pulled back, practically dark circles under eyes that held neither self-pity nor desperation. Reason given: officially early termination of marriage contract. Unofficially, Elizabeth informed the Garden Club that I'm no longer considered family after siding with a man who deliberately undermined their social standing. Sarah's tone remained matter-of-fact, reporting intelligence rather than seeking sympathy. The $50,000 check, I offered it. Thomas called it tainted money and insulting. A slight tightening around her eyes was the only indication of emotion. Apparently accepting $95,000 for the wedding was different because it passed through me first. Your current living situation, month-to-month apartment downtown, walkable to the office, sufficient. Michael nodded, noting the military precision in her answers. Thompson mentioned the Norfolk Business Association event tomorrow. 40 companies recruiting veterans. 43 now. The Times article brought more companies on board. They're eager to demonstrate support for veteran hiring. Registration assistance needed. Sarah recognized the offer, not charity, but opportunity for public alignment with her father's mission. I can handle it if required. 700 setup, we roll by 800. I'll be there at 0630. She was. The Norfolk Business Association event marked their first public appearance together since the wedding disaster. Business leaders watched carefully, evaluating this new dynamic. Sarah no longer played society princess. She worked with focused efficiency, directing veterans to appropriate employer booths, speaking knowledgeably about certification requirements and transition challenges. Rebecca Wilson from Military Times approached during a brief lull, digital recorder visible. Colonel Reynolds' impressive turnout today. Veterans deserve opportunities commensurate with their skills and sacrifice. Rebecca turned to Sarah. And Sarah Reynolds, or is it still Harrington? This must be a different experience from when we last spoke. Sarah met the reporter's gaze directly. Reynolds, I've reclaimed my name. And yes, it's different building something meaningful versus consuming what others create. Any comment on rumors that Virginia Beach Country Club faces significant financial restructuring after losing the Reynolds Defense Consulting sponsorship? No official statement, but I'm proud to stand with organizations that respect military service rather than merely accepting military money. Rebecca glanced between father and daughter. That sounds like a direct quote from your father's philosophy. Not a quote. Sarah's eyes briefly met Michael's. A lesson learned through experience. After the journalist moved on, Michael raised an eyebrow. Reclaimed your name. Divorce papers filed yesterday. I'm requesting no assets, no alimony, no property claims. Clean break. Significant financial sacrifice. It's the cost of integrity. Some things can't be measured in dollars. The first genuine smile since their reconciliation began crossed Michael's face. Not full, not complete, but authentic. Thompson mentioned Hampton Roads Community Center needs permanent security staffing. 3 shifts, competitive rates. I'll make contact this afternoon. Another step forward. April brought swift divorce proceedings, accelerated by Sarah's refusal to contest anything or seek compensation. Thomas never appeared, sending lawyers who spoke clinically about irreconcilable differences and family loyalty conflicts. Sarah sat stone-faced through the proceedings, already a Reynolds again, in more than just name. On the day the divorce was finalized, Michael discovered an envelope on his desk. Inside was a photograph from Sarah's childhood, 8-year-old Sarah, wearing his oversized army cap, saluting with gap-toothed determination. Beneath it, her neat handwriting, I lost my way, finding it again. Thank you for the map back. He carried the note in his pocket for weeks afterward, though he never mentioned it to anyone, not even Sarah. By June, Sarah had advanced from volunteer to paid staff member in the Veteran Employment Program, earning her position through demonstrated competence rather than family connection. She maintained her modest apartment and practical lifestyle despite now having the means for more. Her designer clothes remained in storage, her expensive cars sold and replaced with a reliable sedan. The only luxury she permitted herself was regular donations to the Veteran Housing Assistance Fund she'd established with her divorce settlement. The transformation wasn't just external. Veteran clients who initially regarded her with suspicion now requested her assistance, specifically recognizing her genuine commitment and growing expertise. She no longer had to prove she wasn't the wedding girl. Her daily actions had established a new identity. On a rainy Tuesday morning, Patricia Moore requested an urgent meeting with Michael at a neutral location, a downtown coffee shop halfway between the former Country Club and Reynolds Defense Consulting offices. The club is facing bankruptcy proceedings. Dark circles under her eyes testify to sleepless nights. Membership has dropped 38% since February. Corporate events canceled. Bank calling and loans. Michael sipped his coffee without comment. The board terminated both Harrington's memberships last week. Elizabeth created a scene, claimed they were founding members who couldn't be removed. Were they? No, they joined in 2011, purchased heritage status with a large initiation fee, but they have no actual founding connection. Michael nodded, waiting for the real purpose of this meeting. Colonel, I'm not here asking for money. Then why are you here, Patricia? Because 43 employees, good people, many supporting families are about to lose their jobs. Because a community institution is failing, and because I believe in second chances. Michael set down his cup. What specifically are you proposing? A community purchase. Restructure the club as a nonprofit event, venue, and training facility. Use part of the space for veteran job training and hospitality, event management, grounds maintenance. And who would run this community venture? A board of local business leaders and community representatives, including significant veteran membership. The Harringtons and their social circle would lose their exclusive playground. They already have. Most stopped coming after the February incident. Michael studied Patricia's face, looking for deception. Why this solution? Why not just let it fail and something new take its place? Because starting over loses the goodwill and community relationships built over decades. Because those 43 families don't deserve to suffer for the arrogance of a few members. And because you were right about what matters. Patricia slid a folder across the table. Complete financials, property valuation, debt structure, nothing hidden. Review it, decide if this is something worth saving, not for the people who disrespected you, but for the community that could benefit. Michael took the folder without committing. I'll consider it. That's all I ask. Patricia stood to leave, then hesitated. Your daughter, she's been reaching out to our former staff members, helping them find new positions. You raised someone who understands the difference between punishing the guilty and protecting the innocent. The comment surprised Michael. He hadn't known Sarah was doing this additional outreach on her own time. Later that day, his phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. Norfolk Business Association approved veteran apprenticeship funding. 20 positions fully funded for fall program. Perhaps this was a season for rebuilding rather than demolition. The community center proposal consumed July and August. Michael assembled a small team to evaluate the financials, assess community needs, and develop a governance structure that would prevent future exploitation. Sarah participated actively, contributing insights from her outreach to former employees and relationships with local business leaders she'd cultivated through the Veterans Program. Thompson provided essential skepticism throughout the planning process. Sir, we need to consider whether this is genuine community benefit or reputation laundering for the people who disrespected you. Patricia Moore has been consistently honorable throughout the situation. Moore isn't the concern, it's who else might be pulling strings behind the scenes. Sarah leaned forward during one particularly intensive planning session. I've interviewed 17 former staff members. None have been approached by the Harringtons or their social circle with job offers or support. They've been completely abandoned by the people who claim to value their service. Classic elite behavior, Thompson nodded. Use people until they're inconvenient, then discard them. Which makes this an opportunity. Michael tapped the financial projections. Not to restore what was, but to build something better. The team often worked late into the evening analyzing scenarios and potential structures. During one such session, when Sarah stepped out to coordinate dinner delivery, Thompson moved to Michael's side. Permission to speak freely, sir. Always Staff Sergeant. Your daughter is earning her way back. Real work, real commitment. Thompson glanced toward the door to ensure privacy. The veterans notice. Word spreads. Assessment noted. Sir, the community purchase could be structured to require her continued involvement. Skin in the game. Already considering it. 20% personal investment from her savings. Non-transferable board position with performance requirements. Thompson nodded approvingly. Trust but verify. Exactly. By September, the framework was finalized. Virginia Beach Community Center would rise from the country club's ashes with a governance structure balancing business interests with community service. 5 board positions would be permanently reserved for veterans, 2 for local small business owners, and 1 for an education representative. The purchase agreement required Reynolds Defense Consulting to provide 25% of the funding, with the remaining 75% coming from community investors, including a 10% personal stake from Sarah's divorce settlement. Michael insisted his company's investment be contingent on maintaining the Veterans Training Program for a minimum of 15 years, ensuring the mission couldn't be easily abandoned by future boards. The night before signing the final papers, Michael invited Sarah to dinner at his home, her first visit there since before the wedding. She arrived precisely on time, carrying a bottle of bourbon that matched his preferred label and proof. The house remained unchanged, military precision in its organization, photographs of his service years, displayed without ostentation. Sarah's childhood achievements still prominently featured. She noticed a new addition, the Military Times article about the country club confrontation, professionally framed, hanging in his study. You kept that, she gestured toward the frame as they settled in the living room with their drinks. Important lessons should be documented. For me or for you. For anyone who enters this house and needs to understand where I stand. Sarah nodded, accepting both the explanation and the implicit boundary it established. She reached into her purse and withdrew an envelope. This arrived today. I thought you should see it before tomorrow's signing. Michael opened it to find an ornate invitation. Elizabeth and Richard Harrington requested the honor of his presence at a charity gala benefiting veterans' causes to be held at their estate the following month. Interesting timing. There was a handwritten note. Sarah passed him a small card in Elizabeth's flowing script. We were wrong. We're trying to learn. Please consider attending. Your assessment. Sarah swirled the bourbon in her glass, watching light play through amber liquid. 6 months ago, I would have called it a sincere apology and encouraged you to accept. Now I recognize it for what it is: damage control. The Harringtons lost their country club, their social standing, and their connection to one of the most influential business networks in Virginia. This isn't about respecting veterans. It's about rebuilding their reputation using veterans as props. Michael set the invitation aside. If I told you I was considering accepting, I'd ask why. To see if people can change. To demonstrate that the military values second chances for those willing to earn them. Have they earned it? That's what I'd be evaluating. Sarah contemplated this. Would you go alone? No, I bring you and Thompson, eyes and ears, multiple perspectives. Assessment team. Precisely. Then I'd support your decision even while maintaining skepticism. Sarah set down her glass. But I wouldn't wear Harrington jewelry or carry a Harrington handbag. Those superficial trappings don't define me anymore. Good. Michael raised his glass slightly. To authenticity over appearance. To substance over style. Their glasses clinked, marking not just a reconciliation, but an alliance, father and daughter moving in the same direction rather than opposing forces. The community center conversion proceeded through fall with remarkable efficiency. Sarah took responsibility for the veteran training program, working alongside Thompson to develop curriculum for hospitality management, event coordination, and facility operations. The program would provide industry-recognized certification, creating pathways to management roles rather than just entry-level positions. Michael maintained strategic oversight while allowing Sarah room to prove herself. Her social media presence, once filled with society, events, and luxury products, now featured veteran success stories and community development milestones. October brought the Harringtons Charity Gala. After careful consideration, Michael accepted the invitation, bringing Sarah Thompson and Rebecca Wilson as his team. The invitation had specifically mentioned +1, but Michael's response made it clear that his team came as a unit or not at all. The Harringtons acquiesced. Their estate displayed generational wealth, manicured grounds, original artwork, antique furniture, selected more for provenance than comfort. Staff in formal attire guided guests through rooms designed to impress rather than welcome. Michael noted that every server, security guard, and support staff member appeared to be under 30, likely hired through agencies rather than veteran-owned businesses. Elizabeth spotted them immediately, making her way across the ballroom with practiced grace. Her smile remained fixed as she approached. Colonel Reynolds, we're so pleased you could join us tonight. This event will raise substantial funds for veterans rehabilitation programs. Which programs specifically? The question caught her off guard. Well, several reputable organizations. Richard has the complete list. Sarah, you look different. I am different, Mrs. Harrington. Please, Elizabeth is fine. Mrs. Harrington is appropriate for our current relationship. Michael suppressed a smile at his daughter's firm boundary setting. Thompson stood slightly behind them, observing with the trained eye of someone who'd assessed threat levels in combat zones. Rebecca Wilson circulated nearby notebook discreetly in hand. Richard approached champagne flutes on a silver tray. Colonel Sarah, welcome to our home, champagne. We don't drink on duty. Michael's tone made it clear this wasn't a social visit. Duty, this is a charity function. Every interaction with the veteran community is duty, Mr. Harrington. Their well-being isn't a hobby or social opportunity, it's a responsibility. Richard's smile faltered. Of course, perhaps you'd like to see the presentation materials. We've allocated funds for 3 specific programs. I'd be very interested in reviewing those materials. Michael gestured for Thompson to accompany them, leaving Sarah with Elizabeth and Rebecca within earshot. Elizabeth waited until the men moved away before turning to Sarah. Your father remains intense. My father remains principled. There's a difference, and you fully embraced his perspective now. After everything we offered you. Sarah met her former mother-in-law's gaze directly. What exactly did you offer me, Mrs. Harrington? Conditional acceptance based on rejecting my heritage. Social status dependent on publicly humiliating my father. A marriage that collapsed the moment money and connections were threatened. That's hardly fair. Thomas was devastated when you left. Thomas was devastated when the country club revoked your membership. Our marriage was collateral damage to his social embarrassment. Elizabeth lowered her voice. We're trying to make amends. This event will raise over $200,000 for veterans. That's commendable, but writing checks doesn't erase disrespect. Actions have lasting consequences, especially when they reveal core values. People can change, Sarah. They can, but real change shows in consistent behavior over time, not single gestures when reputation is at stake. Rebecca Wilson, who had been pretending to admire a nearby floral arrangement, stepped closer. Mrs. Harrington, I'd love to include your perspective in my follow-up article about community support for veterans. How has your understanding of military service evolved since the country club incident? Elizabeth's composed facade cracked slightly. You're with the Military Times. I wasn't aware press would be attending tonight. Colonel Reynolds mentioned my attendance in his RSVP. Didn't the event coordinator inform you? There must have been an oversight. If you'll excuse me, I need to check on other guests. After Elizabeth departed, Rebecca turned to Sarah. Interesting that they're uncomfortable with press coverage of their charitable work. Charity done for public recognition isn't charity, it's marketing. That's quotable. May I use it? Absolutely. Across the room, Michael and Thompson were reviewing the charitable donation allocations with Richard. The materials were professionally prepared, but notably light on specifics, vague references to veteran support and reintegration assistance, without detailed implementation plans or outcome measurements. These organizations have you vetted them personally. Michael tapped the glossy brochure. Our financial advisor provided recommendations based on tax advantages and community impact. Tax advantages first noted. Thompson's pen moved across his notepad. That's not what I meant. It's what you said. Michael handed the brochure back. Mr. Harrington, genuine support for veterans requires understanding their actual needs, not just distributing funds to whichever organizations offer the best tax write-offs. Colonel, we're trying to help. Are you trying to rehabilitate your social standing after your wife publicly stated that military veterans don't belong in polite society? Richard's practiced charm evaporated. That was a misunderstanding. It wasn't. It was a moment of honesty that revealed genuine beliefs your family acted on by pressuring my daughter to publicly reject her father. Elizabeth spoke inappropriately. We've acknowledged that. You've acknowledged it now that there are consequences. Not when it was happening, not when you could have intervened, and certainly not when you watched your son pressure my daughter into choosing social advancement over family loyalty. Thompson remained silent, but vigilant, his presence reinforcing Michael's position. What exactly do you want from us, Colonel? Richard's frustration broke through his carefully cultivated demeanor. We're hosting this event. We're donating substantial funds. We've apologized. What more can we possibly do? Michael studied the man before him, wealthy, privileged, accustomed to buying his way out of uncomfortable situations. You still don't understand. This isn't about what you can do now. It's about who you revealed yourselves to be when you thought there would be no consequences. People make mistakes. True, but mistakes reveal character, Mr. Harrington. Your family showed precisely who you are when the pressure was on. You can write checks for veterans causes until your bank account runs dry, but it won't change what happened or who you are at your core. Then why did you come tonight? To observe, to evaluate, to give you the opportunity to demonstrate genuine change if it exists. And your verdict? Michael glanced around the room at the wealthy attendees in formal wear. The strategic photographs of Richard shaking hands with politicians, the carefully crafted image of philanthropic concern. This event isn't about veterans. It's about rehabilitating the Harrington family image. You're using military service members as props in your social redemption story, which is precisely the kind of superficial status-focused behavior that created the original problem. That's unfair. It's precisely fair. If you genuinely wanted to support veterans, you'd be doing the difficult, unglamorous work of understanding their actual needs rather than hosting champagne receptions to impress your social circle. Thompson stepped forward slightly. Sir Ms. Wilson is signaling that the Harrington security team is becoming agitated by our conversation. Michael nodded. We've seen what we came to evaluate. Time to withdraw. You're leaving. The presentation hasn't even started. We've seen the real presentation, Mr. Harrington. The rest is just theater. Michael, Sarah Thompson, and Rebecca departed less than 45 minutes after arriving. In the car, Rebecca reviewed her notes. They seemed genuinely surprised that you weren't impressed by their financial commitment. Money without respect is just another transaction. Michael watched the estate disappear in the rearview mirror. They still don't understand the difference between writing checks and valuing service. Will you include that assessment in your article? Sarah asked. Along with observations about their staff composition, lack of specific program knowledge, and visible discomfort with press coverage of their charitable work. Thompson, driving with military precision, glanced in the mirror. Assessment of the security team's response suggests they were prepared for potential confrontation, not veteran staffing private security contractors without military background. Noted. Michael turned to Sarah. Your evaluation. Nothing has changed except their awareness that actions have consequences. They're attempting to purchase absolution without changing the underlying attitudes. Agreed. Michael checked his watch. We can still make the evening shift changeover at the community center. Thompson adjust wrote. Yes, sir. As they drove toward Virginia Beach, the contrast couldn't have been more stark. From the Harringtons' estate built on inherited wealth and social exclusivity to the newly renovated community center, created through collective effort and genuine respect for service. The building that had once symbolized social stratification now represented opportunity and recognition of merit rather than status. The evening shift at the community center included 4 veterans in the hospitality training program, 2 recently discharged Marines and Army sergeant with 15 years of service, and a Navy corpsman transitioning to civilian life after 8 years of deployments. They were completing certification requirements by managing actual events under experienced staff supervision. Sarah conducted the shift changeover briefing with calm authority, reviewing the evening's scheduled guest requirements and staffing assignments. Her knowledge of operational details and personal connection with each trainee demonstrated months of committed work rather than superficial involvement. The respect she received wasn't demanded or purchased, it was earned through consistent performance and genuine concern. Michael observed from the doorway Thompson at his side. Sir, comparing this operation to the Harringtons event, no comparison, Staff Sergeant. This is real. That was theater. Rebecca joined them, notebook in hand. Colonel, would you be willing to go on record about tonight's observations? The contrast between superficial charity and meaningful veteran support would make a compelling follow-up to the original story. I'll provide a statement, but focus on this program, not the Harringtons. They've received enough attention for their behavior. Fair enough, and Sarah's role in the community center, her performance speaks for itself. Document that, not our family reconciliation. Rebecca nodded, understanding the boundary. The veteran community is watching this project closely. Many see it as a model for converting other exclusive spaces into community resources. That would be a worthwhile outcome from an unfortunate situation. After the journalist departed to interview the trainees, Thompson cleared his throat. Sir, permission to share an observation. Granted. 8 months ago, your daughter publicly rejected everything you stand for. Tonight, she's implementing your values more effectively than most people who never strayed from them. Michael considered this assessment. Sometimes those who find their way back after losing it understand the map better than those who never had to navigate without it. Worth remembering, sir. The first anniversary of the wedding confrontation arrived on a cold February morning. Michael found an envelope on his desk. When he arrived at the office, Sarah's handwriting on the front, no other markings. Inside was a formal letter in community center stationery detailing the center's first-year achievements. 43 veterans successfully completed the hospitality training program, 38 now employed in management track positions throughout Virginia Beach and Norfolk. Community event bookings exceeded projections by 22%. The Veterans Housing Assistance Fund, seeded with Sarah's personal contribution, had helped 11 families transition from military to civilian life. Accompanying the letter was a small velvet box containing his original $50,000 check for Sarah's house down payment, uncashed, preserved intact, along with a handwritten note. Some debts can't be repaid with money. I'm working on the real balance due. Thank you for not giving up on me. That evening, father and daughter stood on the community center's oceanfront terrace, the same spot where Michael had contemplated his options a year earlier while Sarah had chosen status over loyalty inside. Now they watched the waves together, the anniversary not mentioned but felt by both. Rebecca's follow-up article publishes tomorrow. Sarah handed him her phone with the preview text. The Veteran Success Project, how community investment transformed exclusive space into opportunity hub. No mention of the Harringtons. They're irrelevant to the real story. Sarah took back her phone. Thompson says 3 more country clubs in Virginia have approached us about similar conversion models. Are you prepared to expand the program? With the right team, yes. The first graduating class has volunteered to become instructors for the next cohort. Several want to develop satellite programs in their hometowns. Self-sustaining systems are the most resilient. I learned that from watching you build your company. Long-term vision over short-term gain. The wind picked up carrying salt spray from the crashing waves. Sarah zipped her practical jacket, a far cry from the designer label she'd once prioritized. Thompson mentioned you declined the Chamber of Commerce Leadership Award. This program succeeds because of collective effort, not individual recognition. That's exactly why you deserve it. Sarah smiled slightly. Accepting awards for helping others misses the point of service. Another lesson I learned too late but won't forget. They stood in comfortable silence until Sarah spoke again. Thomas called yesterday. The Harringtons Gala raised less than half their target amount. He wanted to know if I'd consider attending their next event, said my influence with the veteran community could help their fundraising efforts. Your response? I told him the community center accepts donations from all sincere supporters, but we don't provide social rehabilitation services for the wealthy. Michael laughed, a genuine sound that carried across the terrace. I also suggested he volunteer at the center if he truly wants to understand veterans' needs, rather than just writing checks for tax advantages. Will he? Doubtful. Real work without social recognition doesn't fit the Harrington family brand. Sarah turned to face her father fully. I've been thinking about what you said that night about respect being earned daily, not granted permanently. I understand it now in ways I couldn't before experiencing both sides. Some lessons require contrast to fully absorb. Sarah extended her hand formally. Thank you for the opportunity to earn back what I thoughtlessly discarded. Michael took her hand, then pulled her into a proper embrace, the kind that had been absent during the months of professional reconciliation. Some bridges once rebuilt are stronger than the originals. As Sarah walked toward the main building to prepare for the evening training session, Michael remained at the railing contemplating the ocean's endless rhythm. A year ago on the same terrace, he'd made a decision based on principle rather than convenience, on earned respect rather than purchased acceptance. The consequences had rippled outward, transforming not just his relationship with Sarah, but an entire community's approach to veteran support. Thompson joined him, maintaining respectful distance until acknowledged. Status report on the Newport News proposal. City Council approved it unanimously, sir. Conversion begins next month. Your daughter's implementation plan was the deciding factor, specifically the economic impact projections for veteran employment. She's becoming quite the strategist. Like father, like daughter, sir. Michael nodded, accepting both the compliment and its implications. Some battles you win by fighting. Others, you win by choosing the right moment to engage. And this one, sir, Michael watched Sarah through the windows, confidently directing the evening staff. This one we won by recognizing that respect earned through service matters more than acceptance purchased through conformity. Together, they walked back inside, where the work of transforming exclusivity into opportunity continued, not through grand gestures or social performances, but through daily commitment to values that withstood both combat zones and country clubs.